that. Maybe that'll help. So around the time the two guys show up online. So we'll take a listen. All right.
That.
Oh, hey. Oh.
So around the time the two guys show up online.
All right. Hey, y'all. It's Dr. Know-It-All. I am so sorry. Apparently, I don't know what was going on with my microphones. But anyway, I'm going to try to turn down my volume here so I can't hear myself. There we go. And now, hopefully, people can hear me. I hope. We will see how that works. Anyway, we're down to it now. So, I'm hoping that I'm hoping people can hear me at this point. Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, so sorry about the feedback and stuff. Alrighty, so I'm so sorry. We are like right on the cusp of the landing right now. And, oh, wow. Okay, so we're actually seeing, let's see if I can bring up this interactive look right now. All right. We have deployed parachute. All right, just in time. I got the audio just in time. I'm so happy. So, oh my goodness. There he goes. So here you can see like a little bit of, it looks like it's kind of slow telemetry coming in, but this is actually pretty amazing that we're getting this. So this is, again, real time. This actually happened 12 minutes previously to this, and wow. I'm very curious to see how this actually works out. There's some very, very happy people in JPL right now that are working on this. So anyway, so yeah, we're about 10K above the surface right now, 10 kilometers, and they are descending rapidly. And so again, what happens is parachute for a while, heat shield has been ejected at this point. The rover is now exposed and it's acquiring the terrain and it's looking for a good place to land. And just like a minute and a half or so before landing, the rover will separate from the parachute and fall, and then there will be a rocket, a descent engine rocket that will come down and will get it just before it gets to the, wow, they're six kilometers above the surface right now. They're still traveling really fast because even though it's a big parachute, it's a very, very thin atmosphere. And so anyway, the crane, it's kind of a sky crane, and it has rockets, and it will lower the rover to the ground, and then it will cut the connections to it, and the rocket will fly away after the rover touches the ground. But anyway, we're watching right now. You can see that it is getting very, very close, and people are fingers crossed here. Okay, so the lander has acquired the ground and is navigating to the spot it wants to land at. So again, terrain yellow. So I love all the people clapping in the background because there's nothing they can do, right? This is all happening automatically. Oh gosh, okay, so it's already separated. So now the Sky Crane rockets are coming down. And let's watch. Wow. Okay, so we've got confirmation. So now the descent engine is on its own, and the rover is tucked underneath the descent engine, and it's going to sit there, and then it will crane itself down when it gets very, very close to the surface, hopefully when it's acquired a good place to land. And it's doing its terrain relative. You can see it's making big turns right now. It's actually rotating quite a bit as it's going, so pretty impressive stuff going on here. So anyway, hopefully nobody's hearing that. Somebody trying to make a phone call to me right now. So, oh, and there it goes. It's lowering the rover. It's lowering the rover. Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, as expected. Okay. Jeez. All right. I'm seeing it on the ground, and I don't know. I think it's actually gotten to the ground. It looked like at least it was in that little green square, and it was showing that on the. So okay, it made it. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, amazing. Whoo! That is amazing. Wow. Wow. Whoo! You can hear people cheering and screaming now. That is absolutely impressive. Wow. This is such a complicated landing sequence. All happens so rapidly. I'm sorry if I haven't been paying attention to your questions thus far, but I just wanted to watch the entire thing come down. Oh, Stefan, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that, and I really apologize about all of the audio problems I had. I tried to get on last minute, and then of course immediately had audio problems. But this is all fantastic news. I'm going to take my headphones off for just a little bit and reduce the volume of the live stream here. So. Okay, so apparently they're getting telemetry, so all of that is good. And let's see, okay. I like Beach Steph. The plot twist is that SpaceX already has a base there, which is pretty darn funny. And Terrence Green says you have to pay the landing fee in Dogecoin. So incredible. NASA and JPL, this is, I mean, it was pretty impressive the last time it happened in 2012, and I don't know. I might even be more impressed that it happened this time because it's such a ridiculously hard thing to do. But the other options that they used to have, like the big balloons that would bounce around and everything, was also crazy. So this was pretty amazing. And also, how impressive was it that telemetry was basically real time? So Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter was going overhead on Mars between Earth and Mars at the time when the landing happened. So it was able to transmit the data back to Earth very, very rapidly. So again, all of this actually happened about 12 minutes previous to the time that we're actually getting signals about this, but it was real time as far as everybody knew. So anyway, wow, I'm so happy. I just can't even believe. How long before pictures? Terrence Green. That is, and Beat Staff now give us 4K pictures. I think it's going to be a little while. I believe that the very, very first thing it does is it pops up the mast cam and it attempts to take a picture of the environment, just kind of like an I am here picture, sort of like saying that it's alive and well and it's made it to its home. I don't know exactly how long it's expected. In fact, I don't know. There's a little thing that may be the first picture. Yeah, I think that really, really crappy picture is an actual picture. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so anyway, so I believe that really, really crappy picture on the screen right now is actually, so it probably didn't bring up the mast cam then, it was probably some sort of navigation camera or something. It was just some way for it to say, I'm alive, I'm taking pictures, everything is okay. And obviously you can tell that the people at JPL are pretty, oh yeah, there we go, that's much more close up, now we can see it. So there you go, it's kind of a very brief, wow, look at that, you can see the rocks, that's so cool. I get so pumped about all these pictures from Mars. That's just amazing. If you think about that little tiny rover, again, it's about the size of an SUV. It's a little bit squatter, a little bit taller, a little bit fatter, but more or less the size of like a Tesla Model Y or something like that, or whatever, you know, Mazda, a Mazda CX-5, or a compact SUV, the Honda, is it HRV? Whatever. Anyway, that basically is the right size, but it's a little taller and a little shorter. So that's more or less the shape of this thing. But that has now made it to Mars incredibly. I mean, it's such a complicated and ridiculous process trying to get down there. So that's a trifecta. That means that the United Arab Emirates Hope mission has made it. It's orbiting. The Chinese Tianwen-1 mission has also made it to orbit. And it's made it to orbit, and it actually has two more sections. That has a lander and a separate rover that will land at the same time, but then it will rove around separately. So anyway, that's 3 successful missions to Mars so far. The only other kind of big piece of the puzzle is if the Tianwen-1 can actually get to the surface. The lander can get to the surface, so that'll be a separate part. Don't forget also that tucked in underneath this Perseverance rover is a little hopper, a little... basically a helicopter drone that's sitting underneath it, the Ingenuity. And by the by, if you haven't checked it out yet, you should definitely check out my Perseverance primer, which goes into all of the instruments that are on it, what the mission is, which is to search for life, and other things as well, and also the entry, descent, and landing in a little bit more detail, since I didn't catch up to this until the very, very, like, right before the landing. So anyway, yeah, I'm looking at those images. They are fantastic images right now. All right, let me get back to this. HD picture may take days. Hello world. Yes, Dan says hello world. That's a hello world picture right there. And Jacob says it looks like an ultrasound. It's possible. It might actually. I don't know. I think they have. Oh gosh, I'm trying to look and see if I can see more information about it. But I believe that they have some navigation cameras that are more low resolution cameras, and so you can see it's mostly facing towards the ground. So it might have been something that was on the bottom of the rover. But the mast cam, of course, and the super cam will be able to take much more high definition pictures. So Terrence Green asks, "Wonder if they hit the planned landing site." That's a good question. We'll have to wait and see. I'm pretty sure that they're in Jezero Crater, or else they would have said something about that. But yeah, an amazing view from Mars. Yes, Shawshank. Hey, it's nice to see you again, Shawshank. And Beach Staff asked if they're also flat Marsers. I have no idea. I don't know. If you don't believe in a round Earth, I guess Mars is kind of like, I don't know if it's a flat Earth. The Earth is here and Mars is here, and so you have to jump really, really high. So maybe that's what happens. It would sure make landing a lot easier because you just jump from place to place. Carter Spencer, crazy. Yes, it's absolutely mind-blowing that they managed to do this. I'm completely amazed. And Jan says, very exciting. And Stefan, the weather is nice. The weather is nice. Actually, I was just complaining today that it was really, really cold and miserable outside. But then I thought, you know what? It's not like minus 50 or something like that like it is on Mars, so I really shouldn't complain. Shawshank, why that image showed up black and white and not red? Yes, it's just a black and white image. There's nothing magical about this stuff. It's just like I said, I believe that they are probably just navigation cameras on the bottom of the craft. I'm not positive about that. And so they may only be black and white. But the other thing is that if you think about it, color is 3, red, green, and blue. So, or probably they do luminance and anyway, YPB or something like that. But whatever the case is, it takes only a third as much data to send a black and white picture. So usually the first picture that gets sent out is black and white because they just want to be able to be sure everything's working, and it takes a third as much data. And remember that the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is going overhead, and eventually it's going to sunset on the other side of Mars. And I believe Perseverance can contact the Earth directly, but also Mars is rotating, so eventually, it'll get out of touch, right? Because Mars is rotating, the Earth's rotating, all of this stuff is going on. So eventually you'll have signal loss, and so they probably just wanted to get something as fast as possible. All right, and yes, we have on the Discord help. By the way, thank you guys so much on Discord. I appreciate it. I'll try to error correct this stuff next time before... oh well. But anyway, yes, touchdown, party on. So it's time to party on Mars. I wonder if they brought like little party hats on Mars. By the way, the first United States Mars lander, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what series it was. It wasn't Viking, it wasn't Pioneer? It might have been Pioneer. Oh gosh, that may be let me see if that's... Oh, okay, student question. All right, anyway, so let me cut off the live stream audio. But anyway, the first U.S. Mars lander, somebody snuck a American flag like rolled up inside a piece of aluminum, an empty one in there, and they got in really big trouble. They weren't allowed to do that anymore for a long time. But that's just a little interesting historical piece of trivia. I think it was the Pioneer missions. I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, so yes, Shawshank, I hope that answers the question. It either is just black and white, that particular camera, or they may have just been sending the black and white image just for speed to be able to make sure that it could get uploaded as fast as possible. Terrence, this will be exciting for the next few months as they run the equipment. I know, I'm super looking forward to it. I know the last one that happened in 2018 or 19, it was just kind of a lander and it was a little more boring. This one should be a really rocking, exciting mission, and I really can't wait to see what they can do for us there. All right, Dan, it could be colored camera and only yes, exactly. That's exactly right, Dan. So it might very well be a color camera, but they're just trying to transmit for bandwidth purposes. You got to remember, every single pixel, you have to send 3 of those for a color picture and only 1 for black and white. So you definitely, when you're trying to get stuff uploaded as fast as possible and it's traveling over such long distances, you want to do it that way. But you should be happy about this stuff. Back in the day, it would take a long time to get any kind of information back in terms of images. So this is really cool that we could get it within just a couple of minutes after landing. Shawshank, when will Ingenuity be dispatched? I actually don't know the answer to that question. My guess would be that they probably, I think it's like about a week where they do all sorts of checkout stuff, right? They have to get all the instruments up. They have to warm them up. They have to make sure they're all running properly, etc., etc. And I would guess somewhere around a week from now, they'll probably do the little drop-off procedure. The good part about Ingenuity is that it's just kind of tucked up underneath. And so if something, God forbid it, bad happens, but if it gets stuck there and it can't get lowered, it's not going to hurt the rest of the mission at all. Ingenuity, like I said in my video, is just it's just a demonstration process. They're basically just trying to prove, because Mars's atmosphere, remember, Mount Everest is like completely thick atmosphere compared to what's on Mars. It's very, very, very thin. So they have to see if they can actually get the thing to actually get up in the air and launch. So there you go. Terrence Green says the next major landing should be Starship. I hope so. That would be super cool. I would be extremely excited about that if that was the case indeed. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I'm just trying to lower this a little bit. There we go. I was like, you can't see my Patreon link. If you want to join us on Patreon, there's the Patreon link. I just wanted to put that in there. So, okay, Jacob says, I wonder if they programmed it to carry on with its mission if, for some reason, they lose contact around this time. I believe that would be the case, almost definitely. Excuse me. I'm sure that it has not only, it's got probably an initial set of things that it's supposed to do, and that's all automated. But in addition to that, it probably has a failsafe. So, right, it calls home, and if it doesn't hear anything from home, from Earth, it will just go about its business and probably go into some sort of safe mode where it just kind of, just sort of sits there for a while waiting to hear from something. So I would assume that there's a whole bunch of failsafe code that they've written in. In fact, probably a lot of the code that they've got for this lander is that failsafe code. So we will see. All right. Jan, the rover you were looking for, either Sojourner or Spirit. Not the previous. I'm talking about way back in the 1960s. I think it was Pioneer. I don't remember which one. But anyway, it was the very first one that touched down on Mars. And I think it actually, no, it didn't crash. The Russian one, the Soviet one that got there just before crashed. But this one actually touched down safely. It was very, very minimal. Maybe it was Sojourner. No, I think Sojourner was... No. I'm going to have to look this up. Is anybody on Discord? If anybody's on there, look it up. It's the very first lander, and I believe it was Pioneer. But I don't remember which Pioneer it was, and I believe it was like 1967-ish, somewhere around there. It was a very, very long time ago. It was back during the Cold War, sneaking flags on spaceships was a big deal back then. So anyway, Terrence Green says, how does it feel to have my name on Mars? I think that's pretty cool. I had actually forgotten until just this moment. Terrence, do you have your name on the chip also? For anybody who doesn't know, there's a couple of little microchips where I don't know, it must be tiny print, but there's almost 11 million names of people who wanted to have their names on the spacecraft. So I'm glad it didn't crash, right? Because it would be kind of sucky if my name was on just like shards of stuff that had crashed everywhere. So it's very cool that it's there. And I guess it's not like the moon, because like on the moon it'll stay there forever because there's no real weathering. But on Mars, of course, there's weathering, but it'll be there for a long time. So that's pretty darn cool. So yeah, Terrence, I hope you got your name on there too. Oh, Terrence says, unfortunately, no. That's really, really sad. Shawshank, would taking Perseverance to Skycrane crash site will take better soil samples as we can get more... Oh, that's interesting. Shawshank is asking about if we took the rover to where the Skycrane crashed to see if we could get underneath the dirt. That's actually a really good idea. I don't believe they probably will do that, and I actually think the Skycrane goes... I think it goes several kilometers away. It's designed to go far, far away so that it's not really contaminating things. But it would be really cool, because I was thinking one of the problems that this has is that they really don't have like a way of drilling into the surface or excavating like some of the previous missions did. So they're pretty much just shooting things at the surface, which means they can only really see what's going on the surface. So I would that would be really neat, but I don't know that they'll have the ability to do that. Okay, here we go. Stefan found it. Perseverance rover is bringing to Mars. Nope, that's not the one. Beware. Oh, no, Viking wasn't... that wasn't it, though. It must have been a crash landing then. It must not have been... I'm thinking about before Viking. I'm thinking about... It was in the 1960s, so I think it must have been an impactor. Like, you know, before they had successful, like, soft touchdowns, they would just fly the thing straight into the planet. So it may have been that, or it's possible it might have been an orbit or two. I'm a little hazy on my memory of that whole thing. But anyway, Jacob or Jacob says, seems like you did a good amount of research on this. Do you know if the rover computer is ARM-based, or how many computers are on board? Ooh, I know that there are at least two. They always have at least two computers for backup, complete redundancy. And I'm pretty sure... I believe that a lot of the electronics are very, very similar to the previous one, Curiosity. And so I believe they are ARM-based. They're very old technology, like super slow compared to modern computers, because they're specifically radiation hardened. So the processors are designed to be able to take direct cosmic ray hits, you know, to be able to put up with some really, really nasty stuff that goes on, and to be able to reboot and come back into it and keep on trucking. But if I'm remembering correctly, I think there's only two processors, but I do believe that they are ARM-based. And I think it would be... They're kind of like PowerPC chips from the 1990s. Mariner 9, thank you. My disc... I was like, I knew that it wasn't Pioneer. It was Mariner. Yeah, so it was actually 1971. And let's see, Mariner 9 was launched towards Mars. Thank you. Thank you to the people on Discord. And it reached the planet November 4th of the same year, becoming the first space child. Okay, yes. So there you go. So it was Mariner 9, not that. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. And the Viking project was the first one to land. Oh, so now they're showing on the in the background here. Here, I'll pop up the audio just a little bit here. This is Ingenuity, by the way, and you can see how crazy it was when they had to test it. So they had to kind of, first of all, they had to put it on a leash, because they had to reduce the weight, because Mars's gravity is only about 40% that of Earth's. So they had to make it lighter so that it would pretend to be that, and then eventually they put it in a vacuum chamber so that it would be it would run at 1% of Earth's atmosphere. And they tested it over and over and over again. And you notice it's got two counter rotating blades. It's got a little solar panel, little teeny weeny solar panel on top. If I'm remembering correctly, it flies for like 60 seconds or 90 seconds. Very, very short hop. It flies up, it comes down, and then it has to charge for a period of time to charge its batteries, because that's all it can do. So those blades have to spin super, super fast in order for it to find lift in such thin atmosphere, even though the gravity is much, much lighter than Earth's. All right. Is Curiosity still running? Yes, it is. Shawshank. It is. Oh gosh, one of the planes. I'm just blanking on everything today. Sorry about that. It is. Stefan says it's a PowerPC Rosetta OS 10 power. Yeah. So it is. I believe that's kind of in the realm of 1990s technology. So it's very old, but the whole point of it is it's radiation hardened. It's it runs much, much slower. It's, you know, ancient technology, but it's very, very fat transistors by today's standards, and so it can handle a lot more cosmic rays, radiation, bad things that can happen to it. So, Shawshank, what is the fuel used in Perseverance's reactor? Okay, so that, I believe, is, if I'm remembering right, it's thorium, and what they do is it's a thermoisotope thermal electric generator. Jeez. It's the big sort of like cylindrical object that sticks off the back of Curiosity. And actually you can kind of see it. I think I just caught a little bit of the glimpse of it back in that picture of it. But it's basically a tube that sticks off the back end of the craft. And the radioactive decay, the nuclear decay that goes on, heats up these elements that are in there, and they are very cleverly, they convert that to electricity, and then that passes it on to the craft. That is substantially more robust than solar panels on Mars. Because remember, Mars is much, much further away from the sun than the Earth is. So you have to have a lot bigger solar panels. And then Mars also has really, really bad dust storms. And of course, it's got winter. And of course, there's day and night also. So it can only get charged for part of that time. So this allows Perseverance to operate at a much more robust speed. Now, eventually the nuclear fuel inside of it, the isotopes will decay completely or mostly, and it will run out of fuel. And so at that point, it will kind of it'll die. But that's decades. So, and Curiosity is still operating, and it's running off the exact same fuel source as that. So let me just check this. Okay, here we go. So radiation, so this is the processor again. Radiation hardened CPU with a PowerPC 750 architecture. Man, I remember that was the thing, PowerPC. It operates at 200 megahertz, 10 times the speed in Mars Rover's Spirit and Opportunities computers. Okay, there you go. Still very, very slow. 200 megahertz is tiny compared to things. It has 2 gigabytes of flash memory, 8 times as much as Spirit or Opportunity. 256 megs of dynamic RAM. 256K of kilobytes of electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. So that's stuff that they can go in and they can change the programming if they need to. Yeah, radioisotope power system. Goodness gracious. So it's called a multi-mission radioisotope thermoelectric generator, or MMRTG for short. The MMRTG converts heat from the natural radioactive decay of plutonium, okay, it's not thorium, so it's plutonium, into electricity. This then charges the rover's batteries. So it has batteries, but the batteries are constantly being charged up by the electric generator. So it has a mass of 45 kilograms, and it uses 4.8 K of plutonium-238 oxide. Goodness gracious, that is a lot of plutonium. By the way, the president had to give special permission to launch the craft back in July when it launched, because it has nuclear fuel inside of it. It's not weapons-grade nuclear fuel by any means, but if the spaceship exploded close to the ground, it would create a huge radiation hazard, like a plume. So the president specifically has to sign off on all of these missions that involve nuclear power. So interesting little tidbit for you there. Okay, yeah, the 30th of July, 110 watts at launch. So it can provide, it's only 110 watts. That's like a light bulb. And it declines a few percent per year. The batteries are, thank you, man. Thank you. Discord is being great right now. The batteries are 2 lithium-ion rechargeable batteries to meet peak demands of rover activities when the demand temporarily exceeds the MMRTG's steady electrical output levels. So it's basically like the batteries are like a peaker plant, if you think about that, right? So you've got... The electric grid has like a basic amount of electricity they provide, unless you live in Texas. But when you have a peak demand that comes up, that peak is met not by a peaker plant, but by batteries that allow for that. So that's all really, really cool. Okay, Jakob, damn, that's much slower than I expected. LOL. Yeah, 200 megahertz is not exactly crushing it by today's standards, but you have to remember, these things are not built for speed. This thing only is going to be traveling at less than a meter, oh gosh, I think it's maybe like 3 or 4 meters an hour. It's really, really slow. So we're not talking about, it doesn't have to be the super cutting edge technology. It's much, much more important that those processors will last forever, that they're super radiation hardened, that they have big transistors, et cetera, et cetera. So let's see. So would it be correct to assume much of the performance losses come from being stuck with bigger transistors for radiation resistance? Yes. And also less space on the processor die, like we have so much with modern x86 processors. So, I mean, it's all in service of having the lowest possible chance of damage to the processor. So radiation hardening and using older technology with larger transistors are all just ways of making sure that nothing bad happens to it. Because you got to remember, they hope the mission is about 2 years on Earth or 1 year on Mars. But of course they hope that this will last a decade. And if it lasts a decade, then you want those processors to not get crapped out by, a bad radiation event or something, right? If the sun has a big solar flare that happens to hit Mars, it would knock out simpler processors, or not simpler, but more high-tech processors that were running. Like I can't show you my phone because I'm reading my comments off it, but on my phone, it would just take out the phone, and that would be it. Which is no big deal, right? You just restart your phone and everything's fine, but you can't exactly do that on Mars. So nobody's there. You can't call the tech guys to go like, did you try turning it off and turning it back on again? By the way, it does have that built in. If it detects a major failure, it's got a power down sequence and then a restart sequence. So it has that as part of its fail-safe system. Miha, is it using TEC technology, basically the same thing that is running small refrigerator cooler? Thermal electric cooling. It's actually, Miha, it's that, but it's backward. Well, yes and no. Okay, so there's a power source, but there's also a heat source, because the heat has to be, I have no idea what they've got. I have no idea what is showing. There's just a guy singing on screen right now. I don't know. Anyway, but the heat, the production of electricity provides electricity for the rover, and that electricity then runs a heating system that then heats up everything. Because remember, we're going to be getting down to I can't remember the exact minimum temperature, but it's somewhere on the order of, I think, close to negative 100 degrees centigrade. It's extremely cold on Mars when it gets cold. When it gets warm, it can actually be somewhat pleasant. It can get up to around 0 or even above 0 centigrade, but it has to deal with those really cold temperatures, and things will freeze if they're not heated. Plus the fact, of course, during the journey across space from Earth to Mars, it had to be heating itself also. So it's got a whole heating system, very sophisticated heating system, to keep everything in decent shape while it's working. All right. It can do 152 meters per hour. Yeah, there you go. I'm trying to think about like how fast that would be. I think that's not that bad, honestly. 152 meters isn't that bad. It's a football field and a half. So I think certainly you could crawl or probably drag yourself over the ground significantly faster than this thing is going to be running. So it doesn't really matter how fast the processors are. Again, they can't die. They have to stay in good shape. All right, Dan, they should have used the 80s. Okay, maybe we don't need to go back that far. Jakob, makes sense. No Micro Center or Best Buy out there to save you when it stops working. Exactly. Yeah, I always go back to the IT Crowd, that British show, and they were always saying like, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? And it's kind of like, well, there you go. Shawshank says, Wheels of Curiosity got damaged last time. Yes, there were holes on the surface. What's the difference with Perseverance? A lot, actually. If you look at the wheels, oh gosh, let me see if I can bring up a web page here real quick. Hold on. See if I can manage this. All right, let's see. Excuse me for typing. All right, I'll try to bring up a picture of it. Maybe I can find one that shows. Oh yeah, this is brilliant. Okay. Hold on one second. I'll try to get this thing loaded in so I can show. Alright. Alright, there we go. Yeah. Actually, I don't know. Sorry. There's a whole thing. Here we go. I know what I need to do. There we go. Alright. It takes a little while in OBS software to get this all to work, but I'll get there. Okay. This up, and this up, and that up, because I don't know what, I don't know why we're not seeing it. That's unfortunate. Alright, hold on, yeah, I'm not sure why we're not seeing that. That should be, oh, yeah, okay. OBS is really good software, but it's also really annoying. It's really hard to show just a simple thing like a picture. So let me go back here and try again. Yeah, I've got some stuff on my Discord channel that's showing up here, which is great. But let's see if that shows. And that. Alright. Yeah, see, it's showing the wrong part of this image. Alright, fine, whatever. Okay, I'm just going to have to make this bigger. Like I said, OBS works great, but it's not perfect by any means. Okay. So, the problem is that the picture is, like, way down low. And so I need to, like, just need to drag it up and up. There we go. Thank goodness. Sheesh. Alright. That took a lot of time to get there. Okay, so here you can see the differences. So you've got Curiosity versus Perseverance. One of the things that happened was that these wheels, and these are not filled with air by any means, they're all, it's a pretty interesting, it's a very, very cool mesh structure, and a lot of material science goes into it. And basically the shock absorbing happens by these springs that are bent around here. But for one thing, you can see Curiosity has sort of multi-directional treads, whereas Perseverance, they were all straight, and things tended to get stuck in here, but also it would get stuck in the sense of being unable to it would be unable to move in a way to shake it off. This allows for more traction. If you think about your tires, right, most of the times you don't have, like for your automobile, you don't have treads like this. You have these kind of zigzaggy treads, and that just allows things to get shaken out, but it also allows traction in sideways directions, tangential directions, as well as just forward and backwards. So that's definitely how part of that all works. So that's the redesign of it. Also, you notice these the metal springs are a little thicker here, a little thinner here, so they probably saved themselves some weight. And it looks like the hub is actually a bit thicker. So there were definitely significant problems with oops, oh gosh, I've got this backwards. Okay, well, regardless of how this is actually Curiosity, which is really interesting because yeah, I'm sorry, I have it completely backwards. So I don't know. I guess they decided that this zigzag pattern wasn't good. I know that they were getting rocks stuck in it, so maybe they were getting stuck in these sideways treads, and they've decided to go against that. So, sorry, disregard everything I said. So, anyway, it looks like what they've done is they've gone a little bit more robust with all of this. They've created a more robust thing. They've definitely slimmed down the hub from this old one, but they've increased the width of these of the springs. And what's happening is on the outside, they're squishing in like this as it rolls over rocks and things. So more robust springs probably is a good idea. I know that they ended up with just a whole bunch of holes inside of here. So I believe that this material is a little bit stronger than the older material was as well. So anyway, so that's the visual difference. Sorry, I just was looking at this completely backwards. But this is the 2012 Curiosity. This is the current Perseverance looking one. So very, very cool stuff there. All right, let's see. Yes, so, okay, wheels got damage, yes, okay. And then Terrence says, full self-driving Mars variant. Actually, this is a full self-driving vehicle, right? Because of the very, very long delay, it has to pretty much drive itself. So there's no question that this thing has to be able to navigate. It has to know where it is in the terrain. Remember, it doesn't have any GPS, so it's got to do everything terrain relative, which is something that it needs to be able to take a picture. Now, of course, it will send back information. Like, it'll do whatever it does during the day, and it'll drive to a destination. But then it'll send back the information, and people on Earth will go like, oh, you need to go here tomorrow. And that whole process is extremely, extremely slow. So, I mean, it's autonomous in the sense that it has to get from point A to point B that somebody tells it to on Earth, but it's not autonomous in the sense that you're just telling it, like, go to the other side of the crater that's like 3 kilometers away. It doesn't just drive there on its own. It drives a teeny little space, then it waits for instructions, then it drives a little bit more, and it waits for instructions. But certainly one of the big things that's happening right now is that these craft are getting more and more autonomous. The early ones could barely do anything on their own, and now they're starting to get to a point where they can do a great deal of driving on their own. So they're much more autonomous than they used to be. All right, let's see if we've got. Alrighty, Shawshank. Most damage is with the wheels while changing directions. Yes. Yes, I believe that is correct, as they would rotate and things. So it's possible that those more straight treads will, like, if you think about all that sand and grit and everything in those wheels, like all of that is just friction, right? It's just eating it up as it goes. And so if it turns and things get packed up and it's turning and pushing into it, it's just creating a whole bunch of friction and it's going to wear things out. So over time, that may be a big part of it, is the fact that it's able to turn sideways and all of the dirt and grit just slides across those things as it's turning sideways, but then it's got really good traction as it goes forward. So they spent a lot of time redesigning. You know, they don't look that different, but they spent a lot of time redesigning the treads and the wheel design for this, because that's been a major problem with Curiosity, is the wheel design and the wheel construction. So I know they spent a huge amount of time working on that. Yes, okay, Shawshank again. It has a microphone installed on the Rover. Yes, I believe it actually has 2 microphones installed in the Rover. And supposedly we will actually hear it, the landing sequence. They said that when they do the whole thing, so they're going to eventually download high definition video of the landing sequence and also high definition audio. And when that happens, I'm definitely going to do an episode on that, because that's super exciting. I think it's just the coolest thing that we'll be able to actually like listen to the landing. And Mars has such thin atmosphere that it's interesting. I don't know how they built the microphones differently, but they may have to have like really large diaphragms in order to pick up the very weak Martian atmosphere, you know, sound in the atmosphere. But it'll be really cool to hear the wind. It's not the first time. There have been, I think the last one that landed actually has a microphone on it too, and so you can actually hear the wind on Mars. But this should be better than the last lander for sure. Bernard, Curiosity leaving Morse code in its tracks was a bit overkill. Designer having too much fun. I guess that was it, right? That's what Bernard said. Yeah, I think that's pretty funny. Jakob, I like these explanations. They're where we came for. Well, thank you, Jakob. I appreciate that. Is it Jakob or Jacob? I assume it's Jakob with the K. That it's but of course you might be American, and so it might be actually Jacob. So anyway, sorry, one way or the other. All right. So again, if you haven't seen my Perseverance, what do they call it? Perseverance preview. There we go. It goes into the entry, descent, and landing, but it also covers all the instruments that are on the Rover, and there's a lot of really cool instruments. The Supercam, Pixel, and Sherlock are the 3 that are going to be really important, because those 3 instruments together are going to be able to look for signs of life, earlier signs of life, specifically organic chemicals. So if there was, let's say, some bacteria that lived hundreds of millions of years ago, it may have left some sort of like calcium carbonate shells or something like that. And these things will be able to detect. They will use lasers. They'll use lasers. They will use X-ray spectrometry and UV spectrometry, and of course cameras, to be able to look around and see if there are specific spots that look like they have a lot of organic chemistry. Jezero Crater, which is where they landed, at least I assume they did. It sounds like they landed in the right place. That crater is the site of an ancient lake bed and a delta. So you can see that there was water running into it and water filling the bowl of it. And that whole area, I mean, wherever there's water on Earth, there is life on Earth. So that was the whole point of landing here. And I'm super excited about the fact that they're going to be able to hunt around now and see. Pronounced with a hard J. Sorry, Jacob. Apologies. I'll remember that for next time when we do another live stream. Bernard says, do you know if they are sending the landing video captured on board back to Earth later? Yes, Bernard, they are absolutely sending the landing video back. I believe it's going to be multiple days before that happens, though. There's a whole bunch of critical things that have to happen first. And then once they have all the systems worked out and they've sent back all the really important stuff and they've checked out all the equipment and they have some time, then they'll ship the video back. But they said, I think it's going to be 4K. I think it's either 1080p or full 4K video. So they're going to show full frame video. And they're also going to, like I said, they're going to have audio for the first time of the landing, which is going to be super, super cool. And Jacob, don't mind. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you for being flexible. I was actually trying to be sensitive. I was like, well, if he's from Germany or something, I should probably pronounce it properly. So sorry. Shawshank, how are the moving parts lubricated on Perseverance? Ooh. Oh man, I actually don't. That is a really good question. They can't just use regular ball bearings and oil because that would. My assumption would be that they have them like some sort of completely sealed, like let's say the wheels, for example. That
Skill VCA Animal Hospital by VCA Incorporated. Welcome to the VCA Animal Hospital skill.
Oh, that's my Alexa. Alexa, stop. Sorry. I must have said something that was very, very similar. Anyway, I imagine that it's a completely sealed. So if you take the wheels, for example, there's the axle of the wheel that goes through, and then there's the wheel itself, and in between that is bearings that have to roll. So my assumption would be that you'd have some sort of completely sealed bearing system that would be dust sealed and environmentally sealed, etc. But that has to happen for all of the different things. Like the mast cam can move around, and Moxie and Pixel and Sherlock can move around on the end of their boom arms. So yeah, lubrication is actually a really interesting question, and I do not know the answer to that. Steph. No, I'm getting Discord things that say I should ask to order a Tesla Roadster on Amazon. Let's please not do that. I'm glad we don't have audio feedback, or else people would probably start saying that now. I really do wonder what I said that made her come. I'm not going to say her name because she'll just turn back on again. All right. Yes, Shawshank said she got it. I can't say her name or else she'll come back to life and start talking to me again. She's like she's sort of tucked in the corner and hooked up to my stereo system. So I often play classical music while I'm working on scripts and doing AI research and other things like that. So she keeps me company, but once in a while she'll just say random things that I don't necessarily need. All right. If anybody else has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, it appears that let me just look. But yep, it appears that NASA's live stream is over, so I'll probably wrap it up here in just a little bit. But if anybody else has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Again, super apologies. I don't know why I couldn't get the sound to operate at the beginning. I will have to troubleshoot that before the next live stream, which will hopefully be Starship serial number 10, assuming Texas ever gets heat back again. Gosh, I'm glad I don't live in Texas right now. What a mess. Flyboy Utah, hey, how are you? Hello. Nice to see you. And Jacob, thanks for your kindness, though. Sure. Jacob says, you said you were from Cleveland, Ohio. So hello, neighbor. Oh, are you from Cleveland as well? I grew up in Cleveland Heights, actually, on just because you might know Ormond Road, which was right next to Lee Road, which is next to the public library, and only a little ways down from Heights High School. So assuming all of that stuff is still there. I haven't been back in years because my parents moved to the Washington, D.C. area. So anyway, yeah, grew up right around there. So there you go. Welcome, neighbor. Shawshank, what would be the next live stream? That would be the Starship serial number 10 test launch. Again, I think it was originally supposed to happen this week, but of course the terrible, terrible weather and tragic things that are happening in Texas have really slowed that down. So we will just be patient with that. Hopefully they'll get back on their feet in another week or so and start looking at that for sure. Oh, Jacob's from Bainbridge. All right. I think it's still there. Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I just haven't been back in a really long time. It's strange. Flyboy Utah, watched on VR headset. Sorry, I missed it all. No problem at all. Wow. So wait, did you watch the interactive one on VR headsets? Because that's really cool. I might have to go and watch a replay of that. I really can't wait till the high definition version comes out. We'll definitely have to do a little video about that. So definitely make sure you subscribe if you haven't at this point, so you can check out the video, because it should be a lot of fun watching the kind of blow by blow as it's landing. I don't know if most of you have seen the Titan landing of Huygens, the little European Space Agency craft that landed on Titan many years ago now. But that was a really, really cool landing sequence, and it was so informative, and I can't even wait to see what the Mars one's going to be like. If it's full high definition with audio and everything, it's going to be just mind-blowingly cool. So, Shawshank, thank you for your explanations. Thank you, no problem. And Bernard, flying and oxygen making are the two things. Yes, oh yes, oxygen making. And ingenuity. Thank you, Bernard. Those are definitely really, really cool too. I shouldn't have brushed over Moxie And MOXIE is like Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment. I think I got it. They have such big acronyms. But anyway, the whole goal of MOXIE is to demonstrate that on Mars you can take the CO2, which is most of the atmosphere in Mars, and you can turn that into oxygen and methane. And if you think about that, oxygen, good for people, and oxygen and methane is, amazingly enough, what Starship uses for its fuel. It's a methalox burning rocket engine. So if they can demonstrate that this works, then they can show that you can make refueling stations on Mars, and that really opens up the door to amazing travel possibilities, because you can refuel there and you can then come back home again. So that fingers crossed that MOXIE works. I'm really, really excited and waiting for it there. Flyboy Utah said he was sitting in the middle of the control room. Oh, that's super cool. Okay, so I guess we'll have to all go hunt for. It'll probably take a couple hours, but when the NASA live stream gets rebroadcast, we'll have to go and hunt for it and look for our VR headsets. I've got one over there someplace. So methane, yes. Sorry, did I say something besides methane? Sorry if I did. All right, everybody. Yep, it's time to say goodbye. I've got to go walk my dogs before it's dark, and we'll talk later. Anyway, thank you all so much. Again, if you enjoy this, definitely you can check out our Patreon link, which, man, I've managed to screw up again. Let's see if I can... They're kind of, the black doesn't work. Here, let me just make this invisible. There we go. Patreon.com/Dr. Know-It-All Knows. So definitely check out the Patreon link and you can join and have some fun with us. In the meantime, I will see you all at the next live stream, which, like I said, will be the serial number 10. So take a look for that and keep an eye out. I'll see you all later.